In addition, understanding our buyers understands communication patterns. Have communication patterns changed? How people communicate. Who has, I'm not going to make you speak. Who has teenagers? Okay? Do they communicate weird or what? I have two. True story, true story. Call my son, doesn't pick up. I text him. I get bam, right back. So I text him another thing. I said, why aren't you picking up your phone? God is my witness, this was his response. I don't get reception. Okay? So, and I'm serious. I love him dearly. He's the artist. He's not the engineer. He's not going to UW. Okay. We're going to send him somewhere else. Good kid, really. But it's funny. And they just, they tweet and they twit and they do all these different things. My brother's on iMatch.com on his Droid. And I'm like, that's weird, right? So communications really have changed with buyers today. Creating value. Another question for you to think in your own mind. Who creates the value in the real estate transaction? Is it you in what you're selling? Or is it what the buyer interprets as the value the home brings to them? Okay, I want you to shift a little bit how you view the sales process. It is the buyer who determines the value. So understanding who they are gives you a little more deeper insight into how they intend to use the home. Also creating promotions, right? New construction is what? All about promotions. We see finance promotions. We see all sorts of things going on out there. If you understand your buyer and you understand their lifestyle and you understand how they're going to use their home, would that affect what kind of promotions you use to speak to them? An empty nester is different than a first-time buyer, is different than a young family, and so forth. So it helps create promotions. Well, going a little deeper, pardon me, going a little deeper into demographics, today's buyers are really younger, more well-informed, right? A lot of the studies that the NAHB puts out shows the average buyer today being in their early 30s. According to the National Association of Realtors, what is the average age of a realtor in the U.S. today? Raise your hand, there's prize money.
48.
You're close enough, it's 51. There you go. As the barista told me at Starbucks, she goes, we are America's favorite drug dealer. I'm like, wow, I wonder if Howard Schultz heard you saying that. So there is a difference between age difference, and so you need to adjust your communication. 90% of home buyers today use the internet. You've all heard that figure. So here's another prize money question. Why are people using the internet? I'll give you one answer, and you don't get money for this. People are using the internet to do research and to gather information. But there is a fundamental shift in buyer behavior today due to the internet. Why do I not pick up the phone, and I'll point out Lacey because I know her. Why do I not call up Lacey and say, hey, I want to come in and talk to you about the home? Why do I sit on the internet? What's going on with consumer behavior? Why do I shop for my car online and not go into the dealer? Why do I buy my electronics online at Best Buy and don't go in and talk to the guy in there? What's that dynamic that's going on? Very good, very good. And that is something you all need to pay attention to. You get a prize money too. Anonymity, that is a, whoops. Yeah, break my ankle while I'm walking up the stairs. 90% of home buyers, so they're using the internet, so they're shopping in anonymity. That is something you really need to pay attention to and be conscious level when you're putting together your marketing and your sales process and your promotion. If in the early stages of the sales process they're in anonymity, how are we connecting with them? Okay? The goal of any internet materials, especially today, is to provide information and to build trust. How do I gain trust to interact with these people? There's a great speaker, some of you maybe have heard him talk, his name's Mike Lyon. He has a website called doyouconvert.com. He didn't pay me to say that, but he's a smart guy. And he goes through this whole psychology of anonymity, and he basically says, in anonymity, while I'm shopping, while I'm looking for information, okay, here's what I need from you. I need information that lines up with what my agenda is. The exchange of information in anonymity, and I'll tell you what that, I'll give you some examples of that later, that will build trust. Trust builds phone calls builds on-site appointments, appointments equals sales. That's the buyer behavior that we're seeing today throughout not only the US but also the world, and not just real estate, but basically all major purchases. So if we look at what communication looks like today, this is what it looks like, right? And my 14-year-old said, Dad, you missed a few. Well, okay. There's a whole bunch out there. Facebook, there's 1 million companies on Facebook. Half of the Fortune 500 is on Facebook. So here's some best practices, getting back to anonymity. Here's what I'm seeing happen out there in the market right now. Number one, I'm seeing live online chat on builder sites. It's anonymous. It's an exchange of information. Now, from a cost perspective, you have to have somebody man it, right? So that can get expensive. Less expensive, I see questions about our homes. Ask our online financial consultant. Click on a link, up pops a box. Do you want to be tweeted? Do you want to be text, email, or phone call? What's your question? Right? Just a blank face on the other side. Here you go. Well, that begins the exchange of information. A variation of that is I have some builders out there that say, questions about financing, ask our online financial consultant. Same thing. They don't pick up the phone and call the preferred lender and start asking questions. What they do is they want their questions answered in an anonymous fashion, and then they'll get some trust, and then they'll call. Okay? Really cool. For those of you, have any of you seen iJot? No prize money, but iJot. iJot is really cool. In all of the things that I've seen, this is really neat because you can do an embedded online video in an email. And what I mean by that is if you want to send a quick note or a thank you to somebody via an email, if you have a video camera, you can videotape yourself. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, for visiting our home today. We really enjoyed our conversation. Oh, by the way, here's another pan of the gourmet kitchen that you really liked. Feel free to, if you need any other information, let me know. I'll be following up with you in a week or so. And so what it does is it embeds the video into their email. It's not a junk email. When it shows up, it has your picture and it has the little play button, and they click it and off it goes. Cool, cool idea. So my point on this is really you need to adjust to consumer communication patterns today to begin that interaction early and exchange of information. So moving on, are we seeing success? What does success look like out there? I have 6 states that I manage. I cover some glorious areas, Coeur d'Alene, Bend, Reno, Lehi, Utah. And so I am seeing what, all sorts of fun stuff out there, but what success looks like. And we were talking, and I'm sorry, your name again? I spoke to you this morning? Faye. I'm sorry, Faye. Forgot your name. Faye and I were speaking this morning, and she goes, it's about getting back to basics. And honestly, really what it is you're right, basics, getting back to a well-defined sales process. And this is, I can tell you the difference between every sales force I see that is having success, and let me define success, outselling the absorption in the market. So if the market's 1 a month, they're selling 2 or 3 a month. Okay, we're not creating an 06, 07 market again. Are they having success? They have a very well-defined sales process. It's very customer-focused, going back to, do I understand my buyer? How are they intending to use the home? It invests time in understanding the buyer's needs. The #1 new construction salesperson for Richmond American Homes, that's like a super regional, is a gentleman named Ty Wild. He's a 30-year-old salesman. He's in Lehi, Utah. Google map that. It's out in nowhere land. It's in a very difficult market. He sold 66 homes last year. Okay? He came out with a book. I love his title of his book, Everything I Touch Turns to Sold. Okay? And he has this whole life philosophy, and I met him a week and a half ago, and I said, Ty, what is it that you're doing that's creating sales? And this gets back to when I said understanding your buyer, understanding the process. He said, 50% of the time I spend with a buyer, so if I'm going to spend an hour with a buyer, the first 50% I get to know them. Who they are, their background, their current situation. Great question. Tell me about your current situation. Easy thing to say, right? Tell me about your current situation. Then zip your lips, and people will probably tell you a whole bunch about them. Okay? That's what he does. And he sells a tremendous amount of homes, much more so than the guy down the street who I went and talked to who's just in pain. No sales going on. So those are two, that's a very powerful thing to do, to learn who these people are. Again, as I said, defines and sells value in terms of the customer's needs, their terms. Again, who defines the value? It's not what I sell, it's what they're interpreting, how we're using the home and what needs it's serving for them. Follow the buyer's decision path. The best sales processes I see follow the buyer's decision path. NAHB always publishes statistics and research, and I'm just parroting a lot of this. What are the 6 most important things, and you don't need to answer this, but what are the 6 things on the buyer's agenda? Does anybody know? I'll tell them to you. They are area, neighborhood, builder, home, home site, and financing. That's your buyer's checklist. Year after year, the research shows area, neighborhood, builder, home, home site, and financing. So does your sales process address that? Okay, if you're not addressing that, then we're not meeting the needs. Does your website address some of that? Right? Again, you want to provide some information, engage, trust, and build rapport. So I'm going to show you a map of the sales process because I like to get into the flow of the sales process to better define how we can interact or how we can improve ourselves. Now this schematic, this drawing comes from my good friend Chris Sung. His company is CCST, and he and I speak and work together. And he mapped out the new home buying process. And as you can see, he starts on the left side and he says marketing drives in the buyer, and this could be the website, the tweets, the Twitters, the print ads, whatever we're doing. They meet the new home specialist, they generally meet the loan officer, and some point at that point is when they sign purchase and sale. Then they either buy the standing inventory or the home's built. It either goes through customer service, design, and then they move in here at the end. And if you're lucky, they buy a second home from you, or they refer somebody to you, right? And the reason I'm showing you this is I want you to think a little more linear in your sales process and how you're interacting. So if you're trying to understand who the buyer is, buyer demographics, you're trying to connect, meet to them more needs, what I want you to do is to draw a line right here. Sorry, I didn't have caffeine, but it looks like I did. Draw a line here. Those first 3 buttons, those first 3 part of the sales process is information gathering. So our job is to provide information, both getting to know them as well as providing information to them, back to them. Once they've signed purchase and sale, this is execution, right? So that diamond there is execution. What I mean by that is, did you tell them it was going to be an easy process? Well, was it easy? Was it easy to do the upgrades? Was it easy to do the design center? Was the financing easy? Did we create raving fans? Did we create raging fans? Finally, they move in. Moving in is the experience, right? Now they have a chance to live the home. They have a chance to live the lifestyle, the financing, the energy efficiency, the location, the parks, okay? That is very important. So the back end is the experience. So, money question, okay? When is the most likely time somebody to give you referrals? Okay? Maybe. Anybody else? When you ask them, come on, I gotta give away a prize. Somebody's close. While you're working with them. Okay, well I tell you what I'm gonna do, you raised your hand first, so I'll go, thank you for participating. The most likely time for people to give referrals, and this is according to studies, there's a study out called Houses Are for People. I feel like I'm on The Price is Right. Coming up and down the stairs. Actually, this is a great